Okay.
Hi, everybody. I am Andra and I am here with my fabulous co-host, Lorilet Monegro. So today we are here at the Souls Code and we're talking about transparency. So Lorilet never knows what we're going to talk about until I say, let's talk about transparency.
That's the
So,
fun of it.
well, I'm not a scripted person, and I think that people just really want to get to know who we are and why what we're doing is so important to us. So, I've been in healthcare a really long time, and so have you. And I don't think that there's enough transparency in health. And I think there's a lot of confusion around it because if you're at a different doctor or a different speech therapist, even though the concepts are the same, everybody teaches it different and everybody adds their opinion into the equation. And sometimes it gets really lost. Like, right now there's so many people on health talking on health, and I'm not hearing any health in it, and I've been in health in a long time. um True story, funny story. I applied to a TEDx, and they said, what would you like to talk about that's different? And I said health, because nobody out here is really talking about it. I've been in healthcare a long time and I'm just not hearing health, and what they're saying, it sounds more like sick care. So I think that there needs to be more transparency, that when people go to the doctor and they have a question, that it's not about your opinions and stuff. It's really is about the facts. This is what's going on with the person. This is what we think is the next best course of action, where there's not a financial gain attached or anything like that. It's really just about, this is what you need to do next. So when the person leaves there, they have clear understanding, clear answers of what their next steps are. And I don't see that anywhere anymore. And it's concerning. But I also mean transparency in the way that we are with our clients, that we do that same thing. That if someone, like, I do weight loss, right? So if someone comes to me and says, I want to lose 100 pounds in this month, transparency would be to say that's not going to happen, right? Because I know that it's not safe, it's not healthy, and then it's really not going to happen, because if they've been struggling to lose weight, there's something else going on, and I got to fix that first, right? So that's what I mean, that we should hold ourselves accountable and give people the value that they deserve and the truth that they need.
When I think about this in the realm of speech and language pathology, um, sometimes people come when think that there's going to be a quick fix, that things are going to happen super fast, and that if their child or the adult comes in with a condition, that that's going to change like drastically immediately. And the truth of the matter is that when you talk about transparency, that's why thorough assessments are so critical, right? To be able to get that baseline, to be able to really understand where we are, and then be able to map out goals that are in congruence with what the ultimate outcome it will be, or we're aiming to have. Unfortunately, sometimes you have people who would say yes to everything, especially if there's no one else overseeing. So, with transparency also comes the ethics piece of being clear that certain conditions may demand more interventions, may demand more time, and may require a different approach than maybe what the person coming in even has awareness of. So transparency looks different in that regard, according to the needs of the client, of the patient. And I think sometimes the medical models that we have don't give that voice to that patient, don't give that opportunity for the patient to express what those outcomes they desire. Um, And I think that's where that whole piece of transparency, having conversations, where are you looking to be versus where you can be given your current state, and what those increments and change and goals would look like. I don't think we have a co-created process necessarily. And I think that's where the medical may need to shift and have more collaboration so that the client or the patient has a voice, and that voice is actually heard. And then we kind of take a measured approach to bringing it into fruition to the best possible in the outcomes. I
I
mean,
like
that's
that. I like
I see.
that. I like that piece where we're asking them what they want. We're asking them what their expected outcomes are, what they're looking to really achieve. And then doing that thorough assessment and seeing if that's even a possibility, right? And then having that conversation with them. Not to demean that they have aspirations of doing better, because you never know. People surprise you in so many ways. People that you think might not be able to do something, do with the right guidance, really can, right? So it's not that they can't achieve it's really about finding the modality that suits them best, that they best learn under. And you know, time is a factor too. Like can they really do it in the minimal amounts of time that they're looking to do? Because people do, regardless of regardless of the situation, whether it's health, well, speech is health too, but they do want those immediate results. And that does mean skipping over necessary processes, and they're not necessarily going to get the quality that they would get if they took the time and did it correct. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that um doing things haphazardly means you have to go back and circle back and really do them correct. So taking your time and doing it correct and making sure that they are advancing at a necessary, a necessary increments, like you said, but they're getting it, right? So that it's theirs. So let's say we were trying to teach the alphabet, right? And we're teaching the kid really fast, and you got to get it in front of the class, and you got to do it now. You got 30 seconds to go, right? So some people don't learn that way, and sometimes they might be intimidated by the approach or the situation that they have to do it in, and might not excel in front of the classroom doing it that way. But they might do well 1-to-1 or something like that. So you do have to, we all do have to shift our perspectives and really take it back to the individual and the person that's in front of us, not necessarily a modality or a model, because everybody doesn't fit that model, right?
Agree. Agree.
So we have to really rethink how we're approaching different people's health and their goals, because not everybody fits into the same box of popcorn, or the same Jack in the Box. They just don't. So you do have to be flexible. So a lot of people think when where health is concerned that the patient has to be flexible, but you have to be flexible with the patient's needs, so that you're really giving giving the best of yourself, and getting them the best possible outcomes.
Yes, I mean, in terms of that, one of the good things about, making a good baseline assessment is to be able to then build out short-term benchmarks and then long-term goals. And as we are doing the work, revisiting and seeing, okay, where are we in that path? Um, it matters tremendously because, of course, we're going to provide an input and then there's going to be a response, right? Whenever I have a client and we try different intervention methods, right, to get to whatever the goal might be that we've set, we want to also, again, enlist the support of the other people surrounding that individual so that there is more carryover and there is more opportunity to implement and practice, just because that's how you build generalization of skills across the different settings and the different situations. And I think that that's one of the ways that we not only involve the client themselves, but their immediate family members. When I talk to parents, I often, when I'm doing an evaluation and I gather all the facts and all the pertinent data, one of the questions that I usually ask them is, I want you to just for 1 second imagine you have all the power to just say through your words how you want to see your child. Go ahead and describe it. Just tell me. And they'll tell me, I want my child to talk more. I want my child to read. I want my child to be independent. I want my child to be successful. They voice all of these wants, okay, which are really the reverse of their fears. As I've come to reason over the years. And and I tell them, let's just imagine this is your wish list. And believe it or not, I actually write that down. I include it. This is what the parent wants because it does have a lot to do with that vision. Um, and not everything is black and white in that process of becoming, right? Or reaching those goals. And therefore, I usually feel that it's also one of the ways that we can keep parents engaged towards that North Star, not in an unrealistic way, but kind of coming back and circling back. Okay, where are we in our path? Where are we? And it becomes more of that connecting point, and also it becomes the moment where we can say, wait a minute, there are really big gaps here. What's going on? And this is where we go and say, does your child need other supports? Does your child need more intervention? Wait, is your child having other issues that we might not have picked up? Have you checked with other related service providers? So no matter which way you look at this, it actually just supports that whole child, that whole being, the adult that needs the support service.
But I think the adult needs that service too, because they are grieving what they expected would that child's life would be like. And they are concerns for the future. But I think that the more that we bring them into the equation, the more they will be able to see what that future looks like and gain a little bit more acceptance and all of those small achievements that that child makes, they're going to be part of, and they're going to see that the child is growing. Um and it helps build a relationship because the child has to trust you. So when mommy's reinforcing what the speech pathologist said or the nurse said, or then they kind of know that this is a good thing, right? Because they're getting that reinforcement at home, but it's also it is reinforcing the learning, so that they are going to keep doing it and doing it. And repetition is a big part of the process. Certainly, diabetics don't learn to, prick their finger and read their numbers and all that stuff overnight, so it doesn't matter what disease process is, there's steps in place that you have to do this first. If you have a heart condition, you have to start decreasing the salt in your diet, drinking more water, eating less red meat. So there's all these different little steps. So, and there's those steps with these children too. And a big part of the first step is getting that child to trust you and being willing to partake in this, right? So that's the most difficult part. So you do have to be very transparent with them, who you are, why you're
Yeah.
here, and even asking that child how they feel about having to be there, you know,
Oh, yeah.
if they can communicate, because they might not, it depends on where they are, but they might not be optimistic because of what society says. So we have to help them get those small little achievements so they can see that this is possible, right?
Absolutely. That those are the quick wins that are so vital in the initial stages because like anything, you want to have that self agency and efficacy that I can achieve and look, I'm doing it and I'm doing all of this by myself. And so, we have to cater to that understanding so that we can build the learning up into the more complex parts. And again, when I talk to parents, it's in the context of whatever the condition is, right? If we have a child that is not using oral language, they may need to use, picture symbols as a form of communication or some kind of alternative and communication device, so that they can, have a way to communicate with their peers, even in the school. Um, but again, all of those goals are set up based on the particular needs that the client would have. And those vary. Everybody is different. People may have similarities, but they're not the same because people respond differently. The response is not always across the board the same. And so this is why we have to be mindful.
But they've had different experiences up into that time, especially in the school age children. Everybody is not so nice when people are different.
Mhm.
So based on where the kind of response they've gotten from their peers, their family, that's going to impact their their feeling or necessity to really want to get that help, right? Um, they might be okay with where they're at. They might not think that they can grow because people have told them that, maybe
Yep,
someone's called them a dum dum or what's wrong with
that's
you
right.
or things like that because people are cruel. So we do have to analyze how much of that input is, but different experiences too. You have, even in the clientele, you have some parents that are very supportive, and accepted, okay, this is the way my child is, and I'm going to help this child regardless. And others that are still trying to get on board with what's going on. So it does depend on where in the process you're interacting with this child. So if the child is younger, I think they would be more likely to be accepting of the teaching process and stuff because they see it as normal. They're in school and they're getting education in other classes, so they might not see the difference. So the younger you get them, the easier it is to teach anything really, than it is.
100%.
But if they've been in the system for a while and they haven't had great results, or nobody's celebrating those wins because this is a win, this is something he wasn't doing before and now he is, and yay, right? So maybe the good job. So what their experience has been is going to impact their future outcomes. Um, and like you said, there may need to be other modalities included. There might need to be
Right.
yeah, multidisciplinary team involved in the level.
Yes.
Because there are children that have speech and language problems, but they also have a lot of medical problems. So the
Yes.
parents are dealing with a lot of uncertainty in lots of areas. So
To be honest with you, I find that many times parents get very concerned with just the speech predominantly. They're like, oh, but he's not talking. They think that that's the one big factor. And I get it. Communication is so critical, but oftentimes, it's not just about a speech and language issue, especially the older a child is needing other additional supports, there might be other involvement. And I think that's where, having appropriate conversations, interdisciplinary meetings, and talking about what would best serve the needs of that child or the adult, because it doesn't always have to be a child. I'm speaking from a pediatric perspective, but you know, becoming aware that speech is not necessarily the only area that would be involved.
Mm.
It is critical to then being also open to accepting other help. Sometimes parents are overwhelmed, emotionally drained, just from the process of all the evaluations, the appointments, the different things, because we do have a system that kind of goes in phases, and people get overdrawn. They're tired, you know?
But they're worried for their children being isolated because they feel that they can't communicate, and naturally they're afraid that
Of
the
course.
child can't talk if something was happening or things like that. I've dealt with a lot of families where their children didn't talk, and when that child goes to the hospital, they're there the whole time because they know that the child can't talk, and they want to be the voice for that child, and that's so
That's very
understandable.
understandable.
Yes,
Very.
right. So yeah, it is very overwhelming. I think that there should be more supports in place for the families, not
I
not
agree with
not
you on
just the
that.
children, not just the children. I think there should.
100%. 100%. Sorry that but it's just really, I'm so in agreement with you on this. And I think that reaching out to a parent and having the supports in a structured way right from the beginning, as opposed to just popping in later on, it almost doesn't make sense. There's like a disconnect in the way these supports are rolled out for the families. It's almost like, in my mind, it should be immediate as your intake. It should just all be kind of enveloped as opposed to coming in later. And that is because whether you have a condition that will merit further assistance or not, the minute you are coming in for these evaluations, there should be some kind of debriefing, counseling kind of process. In my mind, I think there should be quite a clarity around the process that they'll be undergoing and what does that mean, and if found that you need these services, what does that mean further, and this is what you would get, right? Or if your child is perfectly okay, then you do not get X, Y, and Z, but we could still answer questions for you, or whatever that might be. But we don't have such a system. The system
But
kind of
there's
want to pick up
also
later.
there's also a lot of financial needs for children that have, and I don't think there's enough financial support going to these families either, because a lot of them take the case where a child can't talk. They're not going to leave them in the care of somebody else because they have a real fear for what would happen with that child, right? If it's not in a structured place like school, but I'm sure they're hesitant even to send them to school, to not know what the child's day is really going to be like, because it is a parent's first and primary goal is to protect their child, right? So um and then to care for someone who's sick or has special needs can be financially draining, so they're dealing with that as well, and then all of these appointments like you said. So I think there really needs to be more support in place for the parents, whether it
Or
be
if there
financial or social support. um so when I mean social, a lot of these children, because they are considered different and they're treated different, that they have more social events for these children to come together. Like they should be paired with people in their area. This is someone, do you know what I mean? So the children
Yeah,
can play together in a structured environment and stuff like that. And those parents can also get together and talk about what it's like for them and what they're going through,
right.
and maybe be a source of strength for one another.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, the concept of building a community um, comes to my mind. I think about the value that exists when there's a community. But building a community as such would require either that the organizations that run programs build out with the thought that these are communities, right? And I don't know that that's really the thought. I think that very often there's very disjointed. Here you get X, Y, and Z from so and so, you get X, Y, and Z from the other, and it's almost like everything is very like on its own, and the parent has to go fish out different things. And this is where I feel like it's a little bit disconnected,
It's very
like the
disconnected.
whole
If
process.
they should have, like, if the child needs a social worker, so like nurses and most healthcare in these facilities, we work as a team, right? We're multidisciplinary. So I think that facilities that help these children should, or organizations should have a multidisciplinary team where when they go in, because this is going to save so much time and so much money and so much heartache for these parents, where they go in, they get assessed that day, and they say, well, based on this assessment, I'm going to send you over to OT. So it might be a very long day that day, but it won't be several weeks of
Mhm.
um ongoing things. And they could say, okay, we definitely going to need this, right? If the child has no dexterity, we know that the child's going to need OT or PT, right? So and we set that child up so when they leave, they have a clear understanding of what they're doing. Now, there's going to be a time where they need to be reevaluated, see how they're doing with these therapies. Maybe they need an extra one that we missed. I get that. But I think they should be working together as a multidisciplinary team where
Yep.
OT, PT, social work, financial, there should be somebody there to talk to them about financial planning, right? Healthcare,
Yep.
what they're entitled to, all of those things, so that these people aren't getting lost in the system, because a lot of them are getting lost in that system.
Yeah, it's because the system is very massive. But I also, again, I really don't see that the system has thought of individuals who are needing these types of support as a community, and they are a community, so there should be some sort of way that they can come together, be supported, be all accessible to them, as opposed to, oh well, I don't know, go here, call there, then no one picks up the phone, no one answers the email. It's almost like there's always some place that people could hide, as opposed to, okay, what is it that you need? Here it is. This is what you've got to do. And so, and I'm not sure exactly how the system, has come to be in terms of its design. What is the budget? What is whatever around all of these services? But I do believe that the children deserve, particularly, I speak of children because children are innocent. They haven't really enjoyed life. They haven't really experienced much, and they deserve the
I'm listening to
opportunity.
my dog in the background. Before it was your dog, now it's my dog. All right, so I think we touched base on this a little bit, but we're gonna have to put our heads together and really decide how we can make changes, because
Yeah.
that's really the focus of why we're out here. We want to see changes, and we want to advocate for those people and help the people that we serve on a regular basis, right? So we're gonna have more of those conversations, and I really would love to have family members come in and tell us more of your needs and how you could better be served, so that we can advocate for you at those levels, right? So that's it. So
Yeah. Well, we never know who's watching, and all I can say is If there is a politician that is watching, because you never know, right? That they might be
Advocate,
able to
advocate,
pick up
advocate.
they might be able to pick up the idea, wait a minute, we might need to look at how these services are rolled out and what is in there in support of families who are entering the system, and how do we improve that process? Because I do believe that it can be improved.
Absolutely. Everything, there's room for improvement in everything. So, but people have to be open for those improvements. It's not black and white, and healthcare is not black and white. And we have to be healthcare has come so far, but we have to be able to grow within that system. And a lot of times people are very set in their way, and it is very black and white. And having a closed mind is not
Mhm.
serving anybody.
Nope.
Right. So we're going to advocate more. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We are so grateful to you, and we hope you have a great night. Take care.
Bye.